Welcome to the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario webcast entitled Intersectionality, an Equity Framework. I'm Alice Tay, Coordinator of Equity and Women's Services Area at ETFO Provincial, and I'll be hosting this professional learning opportunity. This is a 20 to 30 minute webcast that introduces the basic concepts of intersectionality. It will both deepen and support your critical and conceptual thinking about ways we can consider equity work within the union, schools, and communities. To qualify, this webcast focuses on enhancing our equity framework. It explores the what and how to think about intersectionality, and less on application and practice of this framework in our classrooms and work world. In thinking more critically about such a concept, it will inform us on how we approach our areas of practice. We begin all ETFO programs and events by reading ETFO's Human Rights Statement. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario is committed to providing an environment for members that is free from harassment and discrimination at all provincial and local federation-sponsored activities, fostering the goodwill and trust necessary to protect the rights of all individuals within the organization, neither tolerating nor condoning behavior that undermines the dignity or self-esteem of individuals or the integrity of relationships, and promoting mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation as the basis of interaction among all members. Harassment and discrimination on the basis of a prohibited ground are violations of the Ontario Human Rights Code and are illegal. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario will not tolerate any form of harassment or discrimination as defined by the Ontario Human Rights Code at provincial or local federation-sponsored activities. The Elementary Teachers Federation also acknowledges the land we are on. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario acknowledges that we are gathered today on the customary and traditional lands of the Indigenous peoples of this territory. During this webcast, you will be guided through a number of significant learnings that incorporate the concept of intersectionality. We will engage in some thinking about identity, where you will be requested to view a video clip as part of the learning about how multiple identities, as well as terminology such as bias, stereotype, discrimination, and systems are key to understanding any concept of anti-oppression. In our learnings, you will be requested to view an additional video clip that provides a concrete explanation of this term intersectionality. Finally, before we close off, I will direct you to a handful of resources you may consider exploring in order to provide a deeper analysis of this complex framework. Let us begin with some common and helpful assumptions about the term identity. Identity is a socially and historically constructed concept. We learn about our own identity and the identity of others through interactions with family, peers, institutions such as media, education, and other connections we make in our everyday life. Because so much of the way we make sense of the world comes through multiple filters of technology, family values, religious ideologies, personal and lived experiences, our identities and understanding of the world, to some extent, are constructed through the opportunities or lack of opportunities we are provided. Take, for example, the metaphor of mirror and window. When we think about who we are, part of this answer for ourselves might be who we feel and believe we are internally, how we define ourselves, hence the mirror. Another part we are highly influenced by is how the world sees us and informs us, the window. We are social beings and we can't help but interact with the society we live in. Defining identity is one that is fluid, nuanced, and interactive. Key facets of identity, such as race, gender, age, sexual orientation, and disability, play significant roles in determining how we understand and experience the world, as well as shaping the types of opportunities and challenges that we face. A helpful analogy is the iceberg. When we consider how much of an iceberg is exposed above the waterline, so too are the more visible and obvious identities each of us carries. There is so much that is hidden beneath the water. When we consider the many significant facets of ourselves, think about the following questions. Which of our identities can we hide? Which do we choose to reveal? Which of our identities are often more clearly read in society? Which are misread? Who has choice to hide certain identities and who doesn't? How does societal privilege and marginalization impact on certain identities? These are just some questions to ponder, all complex ideas. This brings us to the third important thinking point about identity, that social and cultural identity is inextricably linked to issues of power, value systems, and ideology. We see this through the systems and institutional organizational structures we are surrounded by. Which groups are advantaged or disadvantaged? Represented, misrepresented, included, omitted, decision makers, excluded from the conversation altogether. In spaces such as media, education, government, institutional religions, popular culture. As we move into our first critical query, perhaps the question for us to consider as a startup to this discussion is, who am I? And ultimately, why is this an important question to explore? I'd like you to engage in a brief identity exercise with me. On a piece of scrap paper, take a moment and list 4 identities that are currently important to you and your sense of self. You can use the list of suggested identities on the slide. There may be others that you would like to consider. Now pause this video and take a moment to write your ideas down. When you are finished, please resume playback of this video. Next, from your chosen list of 4, strike one of these identities off as the least important. You are again asked to strike yet another identity off. Then a final one until you are only left with one identity on your scrap paper. So, which identity are you left with? Would you consider this identity to be the most significant one for you at this time? Is that even a fair question? If you were to engage in this activity last year, 10 years ago, a year from now, 10 years from now, would you have a different result? Some points that may have arisen for you in this activity. Was it uncomfortable for you to make a choice of which identity to strike? If not for you, who in our society might have challenges striking an identity off? Which identities in our society are often omitted or left at the door? In which spaces and contexts might exclusion happen? Identity, as complex as it is, cannot be a concept that can be drawn or quartered. We are complicated beings, multifaceted in our experiences and sense of self. What is it that we ask students, communities, and members to leave outside before they enter the communal or learning space? Their race, their religion, their gender identity, their disability? This omission can be done in subtle or obvious ways, and it can be a significant statement of what we as individuals in a society value or not. The framework of intersectionality invokes in us the necessity to see each other and ourselves in more holistic ways. At this point, I'd like you to view the following video entitled Silent Beats. It is a film developed in 2001 by an Asian American named John Chu. It is approximately 5 minutes long, and if you haven't ever watched it, this short film is definitely worth a viewing, if only for its cinematography. The messages are also very powerful, well worth the watch. During your viewing, consider the following questions. What is not a surprise for you? What insight or questions have you come away with? How are you making sense of terms such as identity, stereotyping, bias, discrimination, and intersectionality? Now pause this video and click the link on the page below to be taken to the Silent Beats video on YouTube. Once you have finished watching the video, make some notes for yourself. Then, please use your browser back button to return to this page and resume playback of this video. After the viewing of Silent Beats, a number of thoughts might have occurred for you. It is interesting that every character in the story had a number of stereotypes and biases attached to them. Implicit biases are very difficult for us to escape from, since messages about different groups of people are pervasive in society. Yet, for some communities and members, such biases and assumptions result in very deeply problematic experiences of both individual and systemic discrimination. Another interesting concept is one of the multiplicity of identities each character held. For example, the elderly woman that might have surprised us all. The assumptions society holds for such a character is steeped in gender, class, age, and ability. It's hard to separate which identity impacts us more, whether it was her gender, race, class, age, or disabilities that informed or misinformed both the shopkeeper and the Black male customer. This stresses the notion of how complex and multifaceted we are as humans. As an additional note, power and privilege plays out in very interesting and unexpected ways depending on the context. In this case, the misconceptions made about the elderly woman provided her a particular kind of power. Her whiteness may have afforded her privilege, and her gender and age an assumption of fragility. As for the young man, stereotypes held about Blackness, male youth, and socioeconomic class impacted the ways others thought and behaved towards him. At every turn in this video, this young man was read inaccurately and problematically. Again, race, class, and gender intersected in his experiences of discrimination. So let us explore the focus of this webcast. What is intersectionality? If we were to brainstorm some words that pop into our heads, we might come up with a gamut of terms. This word graphic provides a sense of how complex intersectionality as a concept might be. One thing for sure is that such a framework has significant social, political, historical, and personal implications. As an introduction, intersectionality is a concept often used in critical theories to describe the ways in which oppressive institutions, such as racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and classism are interconnected and cannot be examined separately from one another. The concept first came from legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989 and is largely used in critical theories, especially feminist theory, when discussing systemic oppression. In her words, intersectionality draws attention to invisibilities that exist in feminism, in anti-racism, in class politics. So obviously, it takes a lot of work to consistently challenge ourselves, to be attentive to aspects of power that we don't ourselves experience. Although the term intersectionality wasn't coined until the late 1980s, it is not at all a new concept. We can go as far back as Sojourner Truth, who exists in American popular culture as a strong abolitionist and supporter of women's rights. Also, having a disabled right hand, Truth challenged social stigmas regarding race, gender, and disability during her time. Indigenous teachings have informed greatly concepts of intersectionality. I don't want to run the risk of homogenizing or othering the complexities and variations of Indigenous ways of being, but it is helpful to note that one of its significant threads is that Indigenous teachings offer multiple, holistic, and intergenerational ways of knowing and approaches of knowledge that can lend itself well to the concept of intersectionality. A third example is in the works of Audre Lorde. Her brand of feminism is rooted in and intertwined with race, queer, and anti-oppression discourses. Her famous quote represents this well. "There is no such thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives." At this point, I will ask you to view the 3-minute video clip that provides us a succinct explanation of intersectionality. As you watch this video, jot down on a piece of paper 1 or 2 key components of intersectionality that either might be confirming for you or offered as new knowledge. Now pause this video and click the link on the page below to be taken to the What is Intersectionality video on Vimeo. Once you have finished watching the video, take a moment to jot down some notes. Then, please use your browser back button to return to this page and resume playback of this video. Intersectionality is a framework for conceptualizing a person, group of people, or social problem as affected by a number of discriminations and disadvantages. It takes into account people's multiple identities and experiences in order to understand the complexity of prejudices they face. This theory asserts that individuals are often simultaneously disadvantaged by multiple sources of oppression, such as race, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, and other identity markers. A helpful analogy that Crenshaw uses is one of a car crash. Imagine that there are 2 intersecting roads, one road named race and the other gender. The cars crossing them are policies impacting these identities. A person standing at this intersection would be hit by traffic from both roads. So a Black woman at this intersection would be impacted both by gender and race. Yet, she may not be able to get an ambulance to help her because she may be mistakenly asked which road she belonged to, as if only one identity had dominance over her. Crenshaw is stressing that we need to see things in terms of their intersections in order to understand and explain them more effectively. To continue the analogy above, if someone gets hit by a car, it's not their Black side, or their straight side, or their female side that gets hurt. Human beings cannot literally or metaphorically be divided by their different identities. We are just too complex for that. This is not to say that sometimes, depending on a context, one particular issue or identity might need to be focused on for a particular purpose. Yet the necessity to be intersectional is key to providing a more fulsome and critical understanding of the situation and to allow for creative and comprehensive problem solving. A good example of this is the organization that the Black Lives Matter movement has. What may seem to be a race-based focus on societal inequities is in fact a movement that has both incorporated and interrogated varying intersectional identities, barriers, and experiences in its work. Black Lives Matter has intertwined and engaged identities and issues of gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, class, and disabilities into its conversations and actions. Before we close, let's pose the question, why incorporate an intersectional framework in our equity thinking and practice? Applying an intersectional or contextualized approach to multiple grounds of discrimination addresses the fact that discrimination has evolved and tends to no longer be overt, but rather more subtle, multi-layered, systemic, environmental, and institutionalized. Therefore, approaching issues of oppression through multifaceted and intersectional ways helps us to understand and read better the complexities of human experiences and societal conditions. It also provides us more creative and comprehensive opportunities for agency and action. As a final slide, here are 3 key resources to deepen your knowledge of intersectionality as a framework. Live links to these resources are available on the page below this video. The first link, entitled Learning Network Intersectionality, offers a clear explanation of intersectionality using a gender-based violence focus. It is also a particularly helpful document since it speaks to specific ways to apply this framework both in our own thinking and in workspaces by asking some critical questions of us. The second link, entitled Everyone Belongs, a toolkit for applying intersectionality, is a comprehensive toolkit developed by the Canadian Research Institute for the Advancement of Women. It focuses not just on the framework of intersectionality, but also provides practical strategies for training and application. The third link comes from the Learning Network, one specific to resources on gender-based violence and the COVID-19 pandemic. This webpage is a central hub that houses many resources to address issues of gender-based violence through an intersectional framework, specifically within the current pandemic. Before I sign off, I want to thank you for choosing to engage with this webcast. I hope that it has given you some food for thought, deepened your thinking of equity, and raised some questions. Our evolution as social justice practitioners is not a static process. Much learning and unlearning goes into our journey. Please feel free to contact me if you have some thoughts or questions to share. I'm always happy to engage in discussion. I'm Alice Tay, and my email address is ate@etfo.org. Thank you and have a great day.